Good evening, everyone. It's Monday, June 14th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. It's time for the joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen, FAA, and Capital Improvement Planning Committee. First order, as always, this board stands for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, item 2. I'm going to welcome a new board member. It's not often that Dudley elects a new selectman, and we have yesterday. The man to my right, Mark Landry. I want to officially welcome him to the table in the Board of Selectmen. So good job last night to you and Mr. Jay Johnson. And Mr. Ruda, they're going to swear in these guys tonight? Or?
Mr. Chairman, first I'm going to swear in the town clerk, and then she's going to swear in
That's great.
Mr. Johnson and Mr. Landry, and then
Ms. Panzik.
make a decision from there as to how she's going to swear in the other people that are here tonight.
Wonderful. Yeah, I actually think it's good that we do this and rather than on TV so people can see it happening. It's good. So, Mr. Ruda.
So we'll go right up to the podium and guess we'll do the rest.
What she has to, yes, that's what I'm
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially perform the duties of town clerk?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Laurie?
Okay.
Now is Laurie's up to swear in the rest.
Sure. Mark, do you want to come first or
Sure.
Jason?
That'd be great.
Okay.
I'll go second.
Fabulous.
Yeah, let's do everybody who's here.
Okay.
Okay, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially perform the duties of your elected position?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll go second.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially perform the duties of your elected position?
I do.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Caitlin's gonna
yeah,
come up. Caitlin?
yeah. Okay, let's do it. Do it in public.
Awesome.
Caitlin, can you raise your right hand? Do you faithfully and do you solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially perform the duties of your elected position? I do.
I think that's it for that. So congrats to everybody. And I like this. If we can start a new tradition of doing that in live. All right, item 3. Once a year after town elections, we reorganize the Board of Selectmen. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So 3A, we're going to vote for our officers and potentially rearrange these seats here. So as is tradition, we look at the high vote getter from yesterday's results, and that actually happens to be Mr. Landry. So Mr. Landry, as the chair, will offer you a chance to accept the nomination for chair.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for even considering me for that position. It is an honor and a privilege to serve. I will not take the nomination. I will in turn, with the issues that the town has coming forward, I think it would be a better decision to take someone and choose someone who stands fast and can get the job done. And I'd like to nominate Mr. Jason Johnson for chairman.
Motion by Mr. Landry for Jay Johnson to be our chair.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Siganovich. Any other nominations?
Does he accept, Mr. Chair?
Do you accept?
I accept.
Accepts.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to close nominations.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Siganovich. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. I don't know.
You can vote for yourself.
You can vote for yourself, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to take a moment before we continue to reorganize and thank you for the leadership you've shown this past year and other years. Anybody who followed along knows we had quite the last year, a couple of years with COVID, but this year especially, getting the Stevens Linden project up and running with the support of the planning board, getting the Chase Ave Mill open for business, again, with the support of the planning board and other departments, not just that. But I just want to publicly take a moment to thank you for your leadership this past year.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, quite kind. Yeah, it was a good year, we got a lot of stuff done, it was challenging, but, we're here, and like always, we'll keep going forward. I'm proud to serve with you guys, very proud. All in favor? For Jay Johnson being our new chair. We need a motion first, sorry.
You already did it.
We already did, motion and a second.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Already voted.
Already
No,
voted.
you voted to close the nominations.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay. Yeah, now we'll do nominations for vice chairman, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate you, Mr. Marcy, for vice chair.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Do you accept?
I accept.
Motion to close nominations?
Motion
Second.
Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Sigenovich. All in favor to close nominations?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? I guess put that to a vote. All in favor to have John Marcy as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, guys, appreciate it. And our clerk, we need a clerk.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that
Mr. Sullivan.
appoint Kerry Signovich as the clerk of the Board of Selectmen.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Johnson.
Does he accept?
Does he accept?
Yes.
Close
Accepts.
nominations?
Motion to close the nominations,
Second?
seconded by Mr. Landry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? A motion, and all in favor to have Kerry be the clerk?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Nice job, guys. And now, clap for everybody because good job. And now we will do the ceremonial rearranging of seats. So I'm going to
Where's
shift
the
one.
gavel? Pass the gavel.
Pass the gavel.
Yeah.
We don't have the gavel out.
I'll go get the, you want the big gavel or what gavel? I'll get
You got the big gavel, don't you? So I'm gonna slide to my left.
He wants the Liddell 12-pound swing.
Shall we'll quickly change our stuff.
Intermission.
That's called a peaceful transfer of power, for those paying attention at home.
Lesson that could be learned on the
Chairman, you
national
want the
level.
fire chief gavel or the standard?
Fire chief, yeah? No, I better go with the standard.
Good choice.
Speak softly and keep. As his first active chair.
Speaking of peaceful transfer of power, as the cloth of democracy hits the floor.
Cloth of democracy.
Again.
Again, I don't know.
All right.
Safely over
I don't know if I can see over it though.
there. All right. Back to the agenda, sorry for that. All right, Board of Selectmen vote to appoint member of Southern Worcester County Regional Dispatch Center Director and Alternate Director, 2 selectmen.
Mr. Chairman, currently, Mr. Sullivan is the selectman representation to the Board of Directors for our Regional Dispatch Center. It's a regular selectman's position. I just want to affirm if he wants to continue in that position, and then Mr. Marcy's the alternate, and see if he wants to remain the alternate, or if this board wants to appoint someone else.
If nobody else wants it, I'll keep doing it. I had a conflict at the last meeting I didn't make, but I've generally tried to make them all, and I'll keep doing it if the board so pleases.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remain as alternate. I'm gonna work to try to help them change the time that they meet, so in case I could meet as well. I have some, for continuity there.
Accept the motion.
Motion to reappoint would be appropriate, Mr. Chairman.
I make a motion to reappoint the 2 positions.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. I didn't screw that one up. That's great. Board of Selectmen to vote to appoint member to Capital Improvement Committee, one selectman.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Marcy is currently the selectman's appointment to the Capital Improvement Committee. Same thing, right?
Yeah,
So we're looking for, if you, does he want to continue in that position, or do we want to appoint someone else? Is it you?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a little card in my wall.
yeah,
When did we change that?
Last year.
last year.
All right, well then pretend I said your name instead, please, Mr. Chairman. We want to continue that or appoint someone else,
Oh, I like to continue.
okay?
Motion to keep Jay Johnson as our Board of Selectmen member to Capital Improvement Committee.
Second?
Seconded by Mr. Landry. Discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, consent agenda. I think we want to take something off of here.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can we remove under item 4B, Robert Fitzgerald as the Assistant Animal Control Officer? We're not going to address that tonight.
Okay. It's the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the modified consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second by Mr. Marcy.
Do you want to read the names for the record, or just for people at home?
Could the clerk read the,
Clerk's computer is, okay. For one-year reappointments, terms to expire June 30th, 2023, we have Ted Barron Senior, Cable Access Coordinator, Jay Spall, Plumbing and Gas Inspector, Jennifer Fitzgerald, Animal Control Officer, Burial Agent Mark Bartel, Electrical Inspector Neil Piasta, CMRPC Delegate William Trifoni, Chief Procurement Officer Jonathan Ruda, Cable Government Affairs Manager Fred Sugar. 3-year reappointments, terms to expire June 30th, 2025. Constable David Knichner. Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Paul Knichner. Cultural Council, Patricia Byron. Historical Commission, Patricia Byron. Council on Aging, Anita Hickey. Charles Kirpick. Historical Commission, Robert Tuttle. Conservation Commission. Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Paul Knichner. Acknowledge non-renewal of appointment, Roberto Cini, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Roberta Bartel, Assistant Burial Agent. New appointments, John Mrazek, Historical Commission, term to expire June 30th. Oh,
Carrie,
that's,
that's number 5.
I went too far.
It's off the consent. All right, so we had
Wasn't
a
color-coded.
motion and a second. We read it into the record. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Number 5, new appointments. Would you like to keep going since you?
Let me just put something here so I know where to stop. New appointments, John Mrazek, Historical Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2024, and Karen Beth Gillen, Historical Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2025, and I hope I pronounced everyone's name correctly.
Here.
Those residents here? No? Board's pleasure?
No, right in the front.
Oh, hi. Would you like to say something?
Go say hello. Tell them who you are.
Hello, I'm Karen Gillen. I'm proud to be on the board, and if I could make a plug for the Dudley Grange Strawberry Festival this Thursday. I hope everybody's got their shortcake tickets. And I look forward to working with Ed and the rest of the commission. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you for stepping up.
Great.
It's the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint John Mrazek to the Historical Commission with the term to expire June 30th, 2024, and Karen Beth Gillen to the Historical Commission with the term to expire June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No, unanimous.
Mr. Chair, before new business,
Yes.
can we just have, maybe Michelle, our administrative assistant, coordinate the other boards, any boards in town that may have vacancies or openings or looking for members, and maybe we can, at a later agenda, you can publish any and all vacancies to try to fill these spots, because I'm sure there's some boards that have some openings,
Yes, please.
just somewhere down the road, not so much the next one. Thank you.
Number 6, new business. Dudley Charlton Regional School District, Richard Matthew Capital Projects. Mr. Lamache? Steve Richard Lamache.
He's not here this evening.
Mine's old, but I'll share it. Oh, yeah, I gotta get my glasses.
Good evening. Congratulations, Mr. Johnson, on the chairmanship.
Oh, thank you.
And just, I wanted to say Happy Flag Day to you.
Yes,
With your
I didn't treat it well.
support of the flag today. Yes.
Thank you for reminding me.
That's pretty good.
I also want to welcome Ms. Panzik this evening as a new school committee member as well. This will be her first, I think, public presentation that she's part of. And in addition to that, this evening is the promotional ceremonies for Dudley Middle School and Charlton Middle School. So I want to congratulate all of the 8th graders that are moving up to 9th grade. And when I left the Shepard Hill, there was hundreds and hundreds of people on the field for the recognition ceremony. So I thought it was fantastic. So I want to acknowledge them as well this evening. Okay. We appreciate your time. I also want to thank you for the work that we did this year around the fiscal year budget. I really appreciate the selectmen's working with us and collaborating with us and trying to figure everything out. As we know, that's the beginning of a few more things coming forward. This is one of them that's coming forward this year. So we have a lot of representation here this evening because this is a important project for the Dudley Charlton Regional School District. So I'll introduce Ms. Jean Costello from School Committee, Kathleen Cameronani from School Committee, Jamie Terry from School Committee, Dave Siniscalchi, who's our Director of Public School Facilities. You have Kelly Zeller, who's School Committee. You have Adam Silent. Did I say it right this time?
You did.
Silent from Garland, who's helping us with the roof. So any technical questions on the roof, he's the person to ask. I'll do the best I can with the information I have, but he is definitely the technical person and has worked in this community in the past as well. And then you have, as I introduced already, Ms. Panzik for School Committee. So we have a number of slides this evening. I'm going to try to do the best I can to get through, but please feel free to interrupt me at any time and ask a question about something that's in there. I did hand out, obviously, very small versions of it, trying to save paper, but I hope you received it electronically as well. So this is considered phase 1. So this evening, we want to look at the overview of past capital projects, what is included in the current request, and we appreciated the feedback this past year when we presented it to you. What is not included in this request, we'll touch upon Mass School Building Authority for the Shepard Hill project. Roof replacements is obviously the number one priority in here. School safety and communication upgrades, fire panels and devices, radio communication and camera systems. And then we'll talk about the fiscal impact and future planning going from there. Okay? A brief history of school capital projects. In 1973, Shepard Hill was new construction. It's roughly 49 years old. In 1989, Heritage was built. It's a new construction. It's roughly 33 years old. Charlton Elementary School renovations, originally constructed in 1958, which is 64 years old, but there were renovations of the elementary schools in the mid to late 90s, from my understanding. So in 2000, we opened up the Dudley Middle School and the Charlton Middle School. That was new construction. So those facilities are 22 years old. Mason Road, the renovations, the original construction was 1963, which is 59 years old, but we did do renovations, as I previously mentioned. Dudley Elementary School, again, we did do renovations for Dudley Elementary School when you, at the same time you were opening up this facility, but the original construction was 1957. In 2011, Shepard Hill doors and windows were replaced, if you recall, and they were funded through the school choice funds, which are now an instrumental part of our operating budget funds at this time. In 2014, Shepard Hill had field renovations, which was partially funded through donations. So what is currently included in this request? And this will be very familiar because we have presented it in the past, and we're going to add more layers of detail to this evening. But again, it's roofs, fire panels, radio communications, and cameras. One of the other things that's really important is because the renovations of those, many of the schools have happened in the 90s, we are requesting within this capital improvement some architectural review of our needs for those schools going forward. So at least we have an idea to develop a plan, and that would be really phase 3 of our capital improvement planning. So what does this mean financially, what is currently in the request? The total values are all the way to the right of this chart. The values of the projects, capital improvement projects for Charlton are in the far left, and for the Dudley projects is in the middle section of this. So this is an estimate right now, and I have to say, as any and all of you know, trying to price something out today could drastically change tomorrow. So we're doing the best we can with what we know now, today. So as we move forward with this, some of these may be adjusted prior to any vote that's taken in the fall. But right now, the estimate for the Dudley Middle School roof is $2,242,500. The professional fees for that roof project is about $179,000. For the fire panel and devices, it's around $92,000 for Dudley Middle School, $41,000 for Dudley Elementary School, $58,000 for Mason Road, and then for camera and video infrastructure, it's about $109,000. And for radio communication, it's roughly $27,000. So the roof project in itself is let's call it $2.4 million. The other school safety cameras and radios is roughly $329,000. And then I talked about the architectural review of our existing facilities that we need to take a look at beyond the safety fire panels and cameras at $75,000. So the total capital project for the community of Dudley is $2.826655 million. Okay? So what is not included in the current request? Anything to fund or support the renovations of Shepard Hill, specifically because we are pulled into the Mass School Building Authority, and we have steps to take there where there will be some work to be done starting September 1st, and we will be looking for some support for a feasibility study for Mass School Building Authority. And also what is not included in there, after the feedback we received from both communities, is the athletic field bleachers, but that is obviously something that we still need on the radar moving forward at Carminati Field. So touching upon it, the Mass School Building Authority, MSBA, Shepard Hill project and other school renovations. Shepard Hill was, as you were informed, was invited into MSBA program after many years of applications, I think roughly 13 or 16 years with a couple of breaks in there. The issue will be put forward for the voters for meeting action in the future. We are looking for a feasibility study will come forward. We know that the feasibility study will be reimbursed at whatever rate MSBA supports for us, but the entire project could have a reimbursement rate that exceeds 50% at this point in time. We don't have a solid number on that because they have to review all of their numbers as well as the community's numbers as we're going through the initial stages with Mass School Building Authority. Funds for the feasibility study are not part of the request. As I shared earlier, our renovations at Shepard Hill through the MSBA program are considered phase 2 of our capital plan. We did talk about a 3-phase plan at this time. And phase 3, again, will come from the results of the architectural drawing or other needs that emerge that we're not aware of, which again, we're trying to do everything we can with Mr. Siniscalchi to look at all of our facilities from that lens. So we do believe that phase 3 will primarily come from the architectural review of our facilities with the $75,000 fee in this capital planning. So let's touch upon the middle school roofs. Existing conditions. At Dudley Middle School, there are 8 discrete roof planes at different elevations totaling just over 61,000 square feet. Obviously, you are aware that it's a flat roof. All roofs are covered with a mechanically attached ethylene propylene, EP. EP is a much better way for me to go on that. Membrane manufactured by Stevens. 3 roofs assembled were installed in various locations of the building. These are really important pieces here. 2 layers of the 2-inch, again, I'm going to work on some of these
Polyiso.
words. Say it again?
Just say polyiso.
Polyoso?
Polyiso.
Polyiso rigid insulation over 5/8 inch gypsum board. 2 layers of 2-inch polyiso. Did I say that right? Polyiso insulation without gypsum board. And 1 layer of 2-inch polyiso insulation. So you can see that there's already disparity on this roof and how it was installed. So let's talk about the problems with the installation at Dudley Middle School. The EP membrane, a hybrid between EPDM and TPO. I don't know what TPO stands for. Adam, TPO?
It's a thermoplastic.
Okay. Having the appearance of a rubber roof, but being seamed by heat welding like a plastic roof, or TPO. The manufacturer Stevens Roofing System was purchased by Dow Chemical in 2008. Remember, these buildings were built in 2000, 1999, 2000, and ceased the production of all roofing membranes in 2011. Scrim layers sandwiched between 2 layers of rubber to reinforce them. So thickness of the scrim reduces the thickness of the rubber, the neoprene that's on the roof. Neoprene or rubber delaminates, flaking, exposing the scrim. Membrane splits, leaving small pinholes to leak. If anyone knows anything about small pinholes in a neoprene or rubber roof, they're almost impossible to find. Yes?
Question, scrim, is it a mesh, is it metal, is it
Yeah, it's a mesh.
fiberglass?
Yep, it's typically a, I don't know what they specifically use in those, but some sort of polyester. And these types of roofs, their scrim that they used was moisture wicking. So once you, up there is a picture of the actual condition on the roof. So when the water and rain hits that roof, it's coming in the building.
So would you roughly say it's like a plastic grid between the 2 layers of the neoprene?
Correct, yeah, it's not necessarily plastic, they make them out of all sorts of things. It's a reinforcing to give it more strength. The problem with these roofs is they didn't put enough material underneath and on top, and so it was very, very thin layer, and the chemistry between each other didn't work out. That's why Dow Chemical got out of the roofing industry, because of this membrane. And over time, they failed within 5 years.
So there are 3 types of repairs that we've been trying to do. And keep in mind that when the building was originally built, there was a 15-year warranty on this building for the roof. 15 years. 3 types of repairs: the largest area patches, target patches, and some coating that we've been working on. Repairs are not lasting with integrity. Patches are only as good as what they are stuck to, which again, if the neoprene, the rubber is failing, then your patches will fail, compounding it. And coatings applied over wet material fail and flake off. So you have options: repair or replace. Repairs of the existing roof are no longer a cost-effective option other than to stop immediate leaks, which is what we continue to do. The membrane has deteriorated to the point where patching materials no longer remain adhered to the sheet. And those areas not repaired are deteriorating quickly. While coating the roof is technically possible, it would require removal of all existing coatings and all wet roof insulation to be eligible for warranty. And we'll talk about wet roof insulation in future slides. Infrared scans were performed in 2011 to identify areas of the wet insulation by visualizing the heat transfer. Similar scans were done in 2015, so you do have a comparison that we will be sharing this evening. So looking at the Dudley Middle School 2015 scan showed only 2, sorry, did I read that wrong? Scans were performed, did I say something other than 2021? I think I did.
2011.
I think I said 2000, yeah, I apologize for that. So you have 2015, the original scans, 2021, the latest scans, in preparation for our request for capital improvement, okay? So in the school scan in 2015 showed only 2% of the insulation to be wet. In 2021, the scan in preparation for capital improvement, it increased by 900% to 24% of the total roof now has what is deemed wet insulation, which are all the red areas on that particular roof. Which, obviously, wet insulation is not a positive thing. It does wreak its own issues with being wet. Anything from deterioration of the materials to also include, mold and other issues in there as well as underneath it. Yes?
How'd you vet ProScan as a supplier or a vendor?
How do we vet them?
They're one of the premier scanning companies in the area. They've done work for the district in the past, and we continued using them because they did have a basis of understanding what was already up there. So that's why we continued using them.
Were they the only supplier?
Of scanning?
No, were they the only one brought in, or did you go competitive quote, or?
No, they were within the procurement guidelines, so we used them solely. It was a sole source.
Thank you.
Adam, I don't think there's any other company in the area I'm not aware of that.
There's a few. As far as their reports go, their reports are more thorough than others, in my opinion anyways. But they've, pretty much, there's not a school district around that hasn't used them. They're pretty reputable.
The only reason I ask is you're basing a lot of future action on it, so you want to be confident in your supplier.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So continuing with the term replacement and replacing the roof, because that is the desirable alternative versus removing and coating. You have three choices, three primary systems for a roof, roofing systems. You have elastomeric rubber roofing, with the most popular technology being EPDM, which is a form of neoprene.
It's rubber, yeah.
Yep. You have thermoplastic, typically PVC or TPO. This is typically the white heat-sealed roofs that you see. And then you have multi-ply built-up, most commonly a 2 or 3-ply SBS modified
Bitumen.
bitumen system. Yeah, I was afraid to say the word. I haven't said it for a long time. But SBS, I'm not clear on what SBS is in this presentation.
It stands for styrene, butadiene styrene. Essentially, it's a emulsion of asphalt and rubber mixed together.
Okay. But it's number 3 is the, I think more specifically for us in our presentation, it's a multiply built up. It's like a 2-layer or 3-ply roofing system. So looking at the elastomeric roofing, a single-ply membrane rubber constructed of vulcanized rubber with or without a reinforcing scrim. So they're still making them with scrims?
You don't see them too often.
Yeah.
They fail.
Yeah. Sheets are typically adhered to rigid insulation, and seams are made tight by 2-sided adhesive seam tape. In glue, they still use glue?
No longer glue. The glue doesn't last. The tape is, with your selvage edge that laps over to the other sheet. You put a seam tape down, and the other one adheres to the other top side of it.
Interesting. The base warranty is 15 years, but you can go 30 years on this type of roof. And the advantages are relatively easy repairs. Disadvantages are solar heat absorption because it is typically black.
You can get white rubber, but it's very rare right now. Yeah, it's very hard to get, and it's I've only come across a couple ever, to be honest with you.
And continuing down disadvantages, seam longevity, as we talked about with the tape. High overall life cycle cost, easily punctured. Sheets are typically only 60 mil, roughly the thickness of a bike tire. 90 mil sheets are available, but as you know, that's an increased cost. And thermal bridging caused by fasteners tend to lead to premature failure. And the fasteners are typically for the insulation that's underneath it.
Correct, yeah. So what happens is is that me? Oh. Since there's no cover board that covers the fasteners, what the membrane goes over, you have cold outside and hot inside, or vice versa. And what happens is those fasteners start to move and they pop up through the membrane. Since the membrane is only 60 mil, like I said, it's the thickness of a bike tire, which is roughly the thickness of a dime. It doesn't take much for those fasteners to pop up through that membrane. Especially if you have snow or if you ever needed to shovel roofs, which I never recommend, or if you have foot traffic up there. Stepping, most single-ply roofing in your warranties, they will tell you they're not suitable for foot traffic for that exact reason.
So you hate this fix, is what you're getting at?
I don't hate it.
I know I.
No, it has its place, but on a building that's not going anywhere for 50, 60 years, I don't
In a
necessarily
good climate.
recommend it. Huh?
In a good climate.
Yeah, in Florida maybe.
On top of it.
Which one can handle a snow blower on top of the roof? That's a joke. It's a
the la-
joke.
None of them, but the last one would be the best, I guess.
Backstory.
I see it all the time, so don't worry about it.
Just came by here a few years ago.
Yeah, I was up there, I saw it.
Oh, so you know, all right.
So the next one is the thermoplastic roofing. This is, as I've said before, commonly seen as a white roof, a single-ply membrane constructed of polymers, typically polyvinyl, chloride, PVC, or thermopolyolefin, TPO, with a reinforcing scrim. Sheet is adhered to rigid insulation and seams are made tight with a hot air welder, melting the plastic sheets together. Warranties start at 15 years but are available up to 30 years with material upgrades. Advantages are solar heat reflection, white or gray sheets, low risk of seam failure because they're heat welded together. Disadvantages are solar glare, especially on a pitched roof, extremely slippery with dew or frost, requires specialized tools to patch, punctures easily, leaks are very difficult to find, tend to crack prematurely due to harsh New England weather and extreme temperature fluctuations. Sheets are typically only 60 mil, roughly the thickness of a bike tire. 90 mil sheets are available, as I shared in the previous one with a markup, obviously, and high overall life cycle cost for this particular roof. And then the last one, the one we talked about, the 2-3 ply, the built-up roofing. This system is made of a base sheet, so sheets with a white or gray modified bitumen cap sheet. Plies are set in cold asphaltic adhesive, and seams are heat welded with hot air welder. Standard warranties are available for 30 years and up to 40 years for this particular roof. Advantages are redundancy due to multiple layers, solar heat reflective, easily patched with no special tools, stands up extremely well to foot traffic and impacts. Overall thickness ranges from 225 mil to 265. As a reminder, the other ones we were talking about 60 mil or 90 mil on the other roofs, and 90 would be the most you can get on the other roofs that were presented. The disadvantages are smaller sheets result in more seams. But again, I think the seams stand up a little bit better compared to, especially compared to the first version roof that I shared with you. So now we're on to our recommendations. Repairing the roof, we do not recommend because the current repairs are not holding, and we do have some what we believe are really serious conditions, negative conditions with the wet insulation increasing tremendously from 2015 to 2021. Coating the roof is not an economical choice because it requires removing prior coatings and wet insulation, which is obviously a cost. The standard metric for ROI on coating projects, are roofs with less than 10% wet insulation. Obviously, we exceed that in the roof. Replacement is the responsible recommendation for us this evening with this capital plan based on the conditions of roofs. Completely replacing the roofs will afford an opportunity to repair steel roof decking, which has rusted from roof leaks and the wet insulation as we talked about, and to increase the thickness of the roof insulation to code minimum, reducing heat and cooling costs within a particular facility. While all three roofing technologies have their advantages and disadvantages, the recommended roof system for the Dudley Middle School is the built-up option. It was the last option that we shared with you. So that's roofs. Any other questions on roofs? Because I was going to move on to the other items. That's obviously the biggest ticket item here.
I have one question
Yep.
through the chair. You mentioned that Dow, after 5 years, all their roofs are failing, they got out of the business. Was there any remedy to those failing roofs?
The remedies for this roof would have happened within the warranty time of 15 years. So I can't speak to that, what actually transpired 15 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know that there were any lawsuits or anything like that either. It all, from my understanding of, is it happened pretty quickly. They bought them, they realized they had a huge problem on their hands, and they decided they're better at doing something else. Goodyear Tire did the same thing, and Firestone's actually, they're a big manufacturer as well. Big corporations tend to buy up smaller guys, and that's what happened with Dow. They made a calculated decision to try to buy a company that they thought had a future, and it didn't.
So, Mr. Chairman, they didn't stand behind any failed roofs after 5 years?
I don't believe
That we're
so.
aware of?
No.
Can we just, I think it would be a good idea if we just verify that that's
Yeah,
not the case.
sure.
There's no, even if it was 10%, 15%, 25%.
Yep.
Just so we know for certain, because I'm sure that question will come up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions on roofs?
Couple. So there's a comment saying the standard metric for ROI and coating projects are roofs with less than 10% wet insulation. So there was an ROI calculation done based on the strip versus new?
There's one that could be done, yes.
It
Yep.
says it was done.
Did we do one? I know we did one. I've done one with Rich before, but this was probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think it was,
Yeah.
it was done in conjunction with Steve. from
Yeah,
Malt.
with Steve, yeah. There's Nault Architects, Steve Van
Was it
Dyke.
like 5 times the payback, 3 times the payback?
It's usually, so what's the specific question, the coating versus the?
Well, they mentioned an ROI of the coating project, so knowing that you gotta strip out all the old roof and strip out all the insulation, and then go back and redo everything, it sounds like a lot of work, but it just mentioned an ROI. And
Yeah, so.
I like charts and graphs, right?
Yeah, they are nice. So initially, when the ROI was done, when we had thought about doing this, I think, I don't know, almost 5 or 6 years ago, like the slide said, I think it was 2% wet. That's nothing. So to give you round numbers, and take these with a grain of salt, if you were to coat a roof, a liquid applied roof, and you can get up to a 20-year warranty on it, you typically pay anywhere between, say, $13 to $16 per square foot. When you rip a roof, you double or more. It's compounded itself with inflation and material costs. So from last year, so when 2021 changed to 2022 last year, across the board, all roofing, it went up 25 to 35%. And there's, you're not paying for new technology. It's just they change over the years and inflation hits. It was probably the biggest jump we've seen, I don't know, maybe since 9/11.
So I don't understand, for the other choices, you don't have to do all that same labor removing the old roof?
No, you do, yeah. Essentially, your only option now is to remove that roof. You could go in and try to piecemeal in the wet insulation that's there now. If you went back to the slide or pulled it up on your sheet where it's wet, the way that you would have to remove that wet insulation and then patch in roofing, and you still, the areas that are not wet are still failing, would cost an immense amount of money. The payback you'd get from that is very low. Plus, there's a coating up on the roof it's doing its job as we speak, but it's actively failing. There's pictures of water migrating up through that existing coating. You can only coat a roof when it's dry and sound. There's a saying, you can't make a bad roof good. Once it's failed, it's failed. There's no kind of coming back from that. So that's why when you're talking about restorations and saving that money, you have to do it before the roof actually fails, and this roof has failed.
You mentioned 15 or 30-year warranties, and what's the cost difference between a 15 and 20?
I'd have to run something. It's quite a bit.
Is there an ROI calculation done on that?
Yeah, you can do all of them.
Okay.
Is it 20 and 30 or 15 and 20?
I wrote 15 and 30.
15 and 20 for 2 of them, and 30 and 40 for the
30 and
last one.
40, yeah.
the
Gotcha.
last option.
Okay.
Yeah,
It'd just
so-
be interesting, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have to come in front of whoever's sitting in our seat
Yeah, 40
in
years from
30
now.
years or 15 years or 20 years, right?
Sully will be here.
Yeah, see, and the tough part about doing a cost analysis right now is you could do it for right now, but literally there's a 8 to 12% increase monthly on materials going up. So if you had an idea of when it's going on, you can make a guesstimate. But it's gonna give you a rough idea of your ROI,
Yeah.
but it's probably not completely accurate.
Well, it's still comparable, right? 'Cause,
Correct, yep,
you know, it's this versus that, and both are gonna go up, so.
absolutely. Yeah, and when you're talking about different technologies and 30-year warranties, they're essentially the same, the cost is anyways.
Still Sullivan?
And Mr. Chair, too, in the presentation, it seems like you have to upsell your material too to get to the higher warranty. You
Exactly.
can't low base roof it and say, I want a 30-year warranty.
Yeah.
Back say, no, you have to do, my words, option B instead of option A on materials.
Yeah, and
Qualified.
the lower warranties are really made for warehouses and factories that they don't care when water comes in on their product. They're there to store product. They can move their spatulas from one aisle to the next if they have a leak. That's what those, you know, and when I said that those technologies, they have their place, in my opinion, that's kind of their place because they're a lower, their life cycle is a lot lower. So meaning that around the years 10, 12, 15, they start to fail. So now you're paying money to keep up on your roof, and if you can keep on top of those maintenance, that's great. I find it very difficult on a building that's 60,000 square feet to keep up on that when I know there's probably limited maintenance staff on hand as it is. And when you talk about life cycle, you're talking about not only, hey, you have a roof that's here for, you know, you got a 15-year warranty and say you replace it at 20 years. But you gotta take in account inflation from, say, we'll call it 2022 right now, and then what stuff's gonna cost in 2042. And that's where the ROI comes in. And we can do that calculation for you.
Well, wouldn't be for us, it'd be for the pitch.
Well, for anyways, yeah, whoever.
So quick question, so say you were starting to build a school from fresh, what type of roof would you choose?
So that's a loaded question. Me personally, I put on the highest lasting roof that they can, but the way that,
What kind though?
I would put on a built-up. Between all the schools in the district, I believe the only one that doesn't have major issues is Shepard Hill, and it has a built-up. And I've done inspections on it, and you can, and what was in the presentation is it's very easy to go to Home Depot, get a thing of Karnak, and you can find where your seam's open, just slap it on, and that's good to go for the next 5 to 10 years.
What do we have here?
Jeff?
It's gonna be neoprene.
Jeff, what do we have on this building?
It's an SBS, it's a 2-ply.
I believe this is a built-up on this roof.
I would also start with a pitched roof too, just to
Yeah.
answer your question too.
Yeah, and design is a big.
You don't like the whole
big issue.
flat,
Flat?
10 feet of snow on it?
All right. We're all set for the next topic.
Thank you.
Okay, the next couple of slides, we're talking about the other items within the capital improvement plan. One is the fire panels and devices. We've talked about this in the past. We did the last round of the district of capital improvement in 1998 and 2000. The fire alarm panels at Mason Road, Dudley Elementary School were upgraded. The 2 middle schools were also constructed with new fire alarm systems at that time. 20 years later, the useful life expectancy of this equipment has passed, and replacement parts are no longer manufactured, making replacement parts challenging to find now. And it is expected that this situation will only get worse as more time passes for these particular fire panels. And we've had a good working relationship with the fire department as well on this project, this part of the project. The panels at Dudley Middle School and Dudley Elementary School have been replaced, but that's just the panels. We also have to look at the devices throughout the building. These are the indicators of fire throughout the schools. While the panels were replaced at Dudley Middle and Dudley Elementary School, each detecting device needs to also be replaced. So the district discussed the situation with the fire departments in each town, as I shared with you, and we've worked on specific timeframes, but the time is now to upgrade all of this and replace these devices and the fire panels where they need to be replaced as well. I wasn't sure if there were any questions on the fire panels or devices.
I don't want to jump in, Mr. Chair. I was going to wait for safety and communication, but is there grant funding for some of these replacements, upgrades, because with the increased focus on school security?
For the camera infrastructure, you'll see that we did apply for and received a grant for all the doorways. That's why we have new devices there. There aren't as many grants available. We did recently apply for one through Motorola. Was it Motorola?
Yep.
Yeah, we did apply through that with the federal government to see. So we're applying for grants to see if we can get them, but we still need to upgrade our systems. And the problem with the cameras right now is we have a mix between analog and digital. So we're leaving one login place to go to another login place, and our analog is outdated and may not be recording everything that we wanted to record. We know digitals are doing the lion's share of our recording, but they're not throughout our system. So that's the mainstay for the camera infrastructure that we're looking for. But we did replace the entranceways for all schools. We went to a fob system for checking in. At the beginning of next school year, every staff member in the entire district will have a fob to enter our schools so they can remain locked all the time. And it has a camera and intercom system as well. But it's uniformed. So for example, I can sit at my desk and I can look at every entranceway in all 7 schools. So that's what we're trying to do with the other camera systems that are on the old analog, almost feeling like VHS systems. They're blurry, they're grayed out, and they're not all recording. So that's really the nuts and bolts for the camera infrastructure. And then radio communication, again, speaking towards analog, we are looking to move towards a digital communication system for all of our schools so that we can not only communicate amongst ourselves within the school system if there's an issue in one of our buildings, but we can also directly communicate with the public safety through these radios and for emergency operations. So that's what we're looking for with the radio communication system. Wasn't sure if you had any question on the radios.
Any questions?
There's been a few developments with our regional dispatch system regarding the radios, which includes digital radios, P25 compliant radios. So I'm sure that you're already dealing with the police chief and fire chief over something that will be interoperable with the town system.
Great.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, Ms. Lamarche, if you wouldn't mind going back to slide 28, the last sentence there I think is important to say. That this added benefit will be that the system can be accessed remotely from our public safety officials to maximize efficiency if we ever had an incident we needed to respond to. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Can I ask a question regarding safety that I seem to recollect years ago there was conversation about some kind of door lock or stop to help prevent basically pull doors in case of active shooters or something like that, but I thought it didn't meet code or something like that. Has there been any work since then to find an alternative that satisfies fire code and the school's needs?
There has been work. We've been in communication with a company out of Michigan, and the gentleman would be more than happy to come out and show us. I asked him to send us a sample so we could run it by, because Michigan code may be, my conversation is they're following more federal code, where Massachusetts tends to be federal and another layer, local. So I asked him to send us a device so we could take a look at it, but he won't send me a device, but he's willing to fly out here and bring all the masses together and sell his product. So we are looking at things, but what he was selling was no different than the device that we actually had. The concern always has been, can you unlock it from the other side of the door? Because it does stop the door. So there is a tool that you use to unlock it from the other side of the door, but we have more work to do with our inspectors, and it's not just our communities. There are other communities that installed this product as well that had to remove it as well in the state of Massachusetts. So we are continuing to try to take a look at that.
Yeah, it's easy to say no, but continuing to work towards a solution is important.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we've just, so to be clear, because there was a cost to that, we've maintained all of that, all the materials that were originally installed, looking to try to get towards a solution for it. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So now we're at the fiscal ramifications. What will phase 1 cost to taxpayers in the community? I know Mr. Matthews worked with the representatives here at Town Hall to provide these numbers as of today. So the base on the FY 2022 information, the average single-family value is $308,378. The current tax rate is $1170. So the increase for the first 5 years of a bond would be 34 cents. The increase for the last 10 years of the bond. And the reason why they're separated is because there are some items here you don't want to pay 15 years worth on a bond interest, like radios and things of that nature. So the average increase per tax bill per year at the average single-family value of $308,378 is $104.85 for the first 5 years, and it's $52.43 for the last 10 years of this particular capital debt that we're looking at.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sullivan?
kind of piggyback on what you were saying before, what Mr. Lamarche just said. The things that you don't want to pay long-term on, like radios, we're gonna pay for them in 5 years as the life expectancy, 10 years or more on top of it. I mean, it's not just 5-year expectancy, right?
Right.
It's just cost up front load it,
Yep.
but that equipment will not be obsolete.
Obsolete in 5 years? No, that's not the, I guarantee we still have radios that are 20 years old in our district.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean they're not obsolete, though.
No,
Functional.
But no,
They're
five,
functional.
five years is,
they're functionally obsolete,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
they're still
right,
working
right.
20 years later.
right.
And that's what we would expect.
Yeah, that's just how you capitalize slowly work off the cost, right? So, okay.
And, Mr. Chair, and this is all assuming a debt exclusion, not an operational override. Okay.
Well, that's ultimately, from my understanding, that's ultimately your decision as a select board in a town, how that goes.
Okay. I saw it written here, so I didn't know if that was the preferred method.
This is assuming that, yeah, we want to work with you on whatever that
Okay.
that is.
I think how it goes is they present,
Right.
they give us the options. We decide the wording and the.
That's why I asked.
Right.
Yes.
Yep, no, thanks.
So if they want to put it forward as a Prop 2.5, that's one thing, if it goes that exclusion, it's a whole different
Yep.
financial impact on the taxpayers, as we all know.
Thanks.
So future planning, we talked about Mass School Building Authority. That's going to be coming forward. That project begins in earnest for us already, but really our timelines for that, because MSBA is a very prescribed program, starts September 1st for us. That includes the organization, setting up a building committee, and starting to work on, building towards a request for a feasibility study, which would include a project manager for that, owner's project manager. That would be, obviously, long-term, that would be phase 2 of our district capital planning. Phase 1 capital funds will pay for the architectural review. Again, that's an important piece here, so that we can review all the rest of the buildings and really develop a phase 3 plan for capital improvements for our district. So that's future planning. We do plan on having public meetings on what we presented this evening. Tuesday, June 21st at Charlton Middle School at 6 p.m. Tuesday, June 28th at Dudley Middle School at 6 p.m. We will record those and we will put those on our website. We do expect to present to the school committee for their authorization for debt, to vote on debt at the next meeting, which is next week. Then we are targeting and looking at a special election to authorize debt for the communities on September 27th, 2022. Phase 2 feasibility study, we talked about that within Mass School Building Authority. That would be coming forward as we turn the year to 2023. The project authorization would be after that. Phase 3 would be based on the architectural review and would be in some things maybe in conjunction with Phase 2. But we'll continue to work with the plan and build in flexibility if there is any flexibility that's needed because of certain items or projects that the architectural review brings up that needs to be addressed sooner than later.
Is it, Mr. Chairman, is the feasibility study you mentioned reimbursable?
The feasibility study, I want to be careful with how I say this because
Some portion of it?
whatever the rate is set, the entire feasibility study is reimbursed by that rate. The reason why I keep saying that is because there are certain items in the actual school project that only has a certain percentage of reimbursement. So for example, site work can only reach a max of 6% of the entire project. Anything over that, the community has to pick up 100% of the bill on it. So that's why I want to be careful on how I say it. The feasibility study, the entire feasibility study is whatever the reimbursement rate is. The entire project is not, if they say there's a reimbursement rate for the project is 75%, not every item that you work on is 75% reimbursable. You have to really look at the fine print and figure out, and that's, really look at the details of that and minimize the actual impact of anything that the community would have to. So for another example I'll give you is building a new superintendent's office. The community would have to pay 100% of that cost. And Mass School Building Authority doesn't build a superintendent's office.
Yeah, that's not in this plan, right?
No, no, I'm very happy with my office, it's definitely not the plan. But I'm just trying to, but the feasibility study, whatever the reimbursement rate, let's say it's 62%, 65%, the entire feasibility study, 65% of it's reimbursed by MSBA.
Mr. Marson.
I know it says, for the special election, I know it says, Tuesday, September 27th. We already have like a state primary that month. Would we really have one separate from that? Because we'd have to pay for another election.
I know that Mr. Matthew has been working with the town clerk, and there, this is potential, that's why.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
That's why the word
we didn't
potential's in
want
there, because it's a good question, because it did come up, and we did talk about that as well. But right now, I know Mr. Matthew's working, and I think he has a conference call this week. Yeah, Thursday.
Hear from Laurie while she's here.
Yeah, Laurie's here, right?
Well, before she comes up, Mr. Chair, on slide 32, it says, little paragraph, last sentence, finishes with safe buildings for the next 20 years. So I know things change, and I put anybody on the crystal ball. Is that what we're looking at for like the 5 panels, for example, would be about a 20-year lifespan?
Yeah, yep,
For technology begins to outstrip what the capabilities.
yep.
And the roof, obviously, is what the 30-year warranty is, 30 or longer life expectancy.
Correct.
Or secondly, is the systems being put in upgradable? Can like software, hardware be upgraded over the 20 years?
Yeah, so for example, the camera system, that's why we're trying to move everything to digital, because we can't, we're having an awful time trying to update any analog type devices and software, but if we move it all to digital, digital's been around for a number of years now, and it is obviously a more operable system for upgrades and for additions to it.
Is it too early to ask what capacity you'd be looking at for the new Shepard Hill in phase 2?
It is too early because MSBA actually, I don't want to say dictates it, but they really work with you and tell you what your capacity is for that school.
Gotcha.
That's what happened in the middle school, right? I believe anybody was around when the middle, talk about student capacity.
Yes.
Because that was when Dudley hit their population boom. And when the middle school was completed, they had more students than slots, but when it was approved, they had to follow within the guidelines of MSBA, if I recall correctly. I remember there was an issue as simple as there was more kids than lockers in the very beginning, then, as kids could move out and weren't replaced or whatever. But, yeah, MSBA was tough on that.
They're very hard. I don't want to say. Well, I'll say it. They're very conservative on that number, but you go through several meetings with them on that and provide more information or updated information to try to support a change in what they believe.
Just going to take a quick pause. Anyone from FAA or Capital Improvement that has any questions on these projects? No? Other questions? No.
No.
I don't mind, sir.
No, mind, just as long as if we're gonna do this on a special election, that it aligns up with the state primary, so we only have one. That would be my only request.
Makes sense. All right, if there's no other questions, any questions from anyone in the crowd? Any last comments?
So, yeah, the school committee want to offer?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Welcome. Laurie,
Thank you.
address that potential,
Lori, do you want to talk about special elections versus the primary and only having one, or no?
Mr. Chairman, maybe just get our concerns while everybody's in the same room. We'll all hear at once, hear the same concerns, and I'm sure that you'll be able to work with Mr. Matthew to come up with a date.
Does that make sense, Lori?
Yes, we do have a meeting Thursday to go over that, and I know they wanted to have the same election date in Charlton as in Dudley. As you mentioned, we do have several elections and town meetings this fall. It's gonna be very busy, so if we could condense them into the same election, that would be fantastic, save the taxpayer money too, as far as the election cost as well.
That's what I was getting at when I said, otherwise who's paying for the special election,
Right,
right?
so we'll know more after Thursday.
Thank you. Any,
Mr. Chairman, my takeaway is that I need to check on Dow, see if there's any possibility for squeezing any money.
It won't be, but
No, but-
just
but-
ask the question.
But I'm just gonna go over my homework on this. And then check on the ROI for the 10% wet insulation, to have a better, even if we just send it to you or something like
yeah,
that.
if you quote an ROI, it'd be nice to have it in the footnotes or
Yep.
in my
Okay.
inbox.
Understood.
Right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see where my agenda is. Number 7, license business permits. The Greatest Hits grand opening, request for a one-day outdoor entertainment license located in the grounds.
Wait, oh, you don't have that? Do you have the bylaw one,
We have not done that yet.
the special town meeting one? I have this on mine.
Oh, that's 6A?
Yeah, I'm sorry that it's not labeled properly.
6A, vote on the date of the special town meeting in the fall per Article 1, subsection 95-1 of the general bylaws. The annual town meeting for the adoption of the fiscal budget and other business shall be held the Monday preceding Memorial Day, and a second section for the consideration of financial articles and other businesses shall be held on the Monday in the month of October or November after a public meeting by the Board of Selectmen in June of each year to vote on the day. The town meeting shall be held at Town Hall or other adequate place to be designated by the Board of Selectmen in the warrant announcing the meeting. Suggested date is Monday, October 24th, 2022.
So, Mr. Chairman, what we're asking for is for the board to vote on a date for our fall town meeting, special town meeting. Suggestion is October 24th.
It's the board's pleasure.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Number 7, license permits. The Greatest Hits grand opening request for a one-day outdoor entertainment license located in the grounds of 35 Chase Ave on Friday, June 24th, 2022, and Saturday, June 25th, 2022, from 12 to 8 p.m. for live music and DJ music.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for having us. Ultimately, we're here today to just ask for that entertainment license for Friday the 24th and Saturday the 25th. The 24th will have, the proposal is to have one food truck on premises with 2 DJs inside. I believe it'd be from 2 to 8 o'clock. Nothing would go past our hours of operation. With the grand opening actually occurring on that Saturday, 2 food trucks, and then the proposal is to have 2 different bands with 1 DJ with music outside from 12 to 8 o'clock. In the event that there's any rain, the food trucks would stay outside, and we'd move the music to inside the venue. Once again, nothing going past the 8 o'clock hour, nothing starting before noontime, so they're not disturbing any of the abutting neighbors. It's a 21 plus event. Everyone that comes on to the premises will have to show an ID because we're not allowed to have anyone on the premises that's underneath the age of 21. Definitely no consumption on premises, one that's against both state and town bylaws and regulations. I did speak briefly with the police chief. I would be talking in more detail with the lieutenant tomorrow if we get this permit. Ultimately, we'd be requesting to have 1 officer on site for that Saturday since the event would be happening outside. To work alongside our security company and our employees to make sure that there's just no issues and that there's a presence there. Ultimately, we just think that having a police officer there just would give the town more security, just to make sure that there's not going to be any issues there. We can answer any questions that you guys have. Once again, Friday is going to be all internal except for the 1 food truck, 2 food trucks on Saturday, 2 bands, 1 DJ. I believe that at this point, 2 of the food trucks have already received their permitting through Board of Health. The third one has their application and they're just waiting to hear back from Camille to get that permit. They've provided all the necessary documentation that they need for that.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Sullivan.
just for the record, we all know who he is, but could he just identify himself for
Oh,
the record?
yes. could you please introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry.
No, you already know.
Nick Adamopoulos on behalf of DMA Holdings, Greatest Hits Cannabis. I apologize.
That's great.
Any questions?
My two questions you answered, so thank you. It was, was there going to be any consumption on site? And
Definitely not.
secondly, the food trucks, because a lot of food trucks don't do the permitting, but you're ahead of that, so.
Yeah, we work closely with the Board of Health agent due to the fact that ultimately it's not going to be a private event because the public would be able to come on site. We did have to get the permitting, so we worked closely with her and she was wonderful to work with.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question. I know Chief Kochanowski's not here, but the Assistant Chief is, and I know at some events, we've either required or there's been EMS presence. Is that something we want to look at or have Attorney Adamopoulos touch base with the Assistant Chief or Fire Chief when he's in town?
I certainly can. I can reach out to them.
And I know some events we have had,
Yeah, I think it's a good
like
idea.
Nichols runs some events that want to have people up there in uniform.
I can
We
cer-
base a lot of our assumptions on when the need for EMS coverage is based upon what type of an event, what type of crowd, what type of entertainment. So we can certainly meet, and they've been overwhelming with information for us, whether we're planning on the build-out of the facility or other suggestions. So they've been a good neighbor to work with, and we certainly can discuss this with them, and we'll come to a determination whether it's needed or not, or a recommendation.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything more athletic than cornhole boards, or is it,
No, they won't even have that outside. I mean, we'll have a few vendors on site, but once again, no product outside. That's against regulations. We have to ensure there's no consumption because that would lead us to losing our license. Really, the only thing outside would be the 2 food trucks, the 2 bands, and then ultimately what we're doing is, I think, certain amount of people that come in at the beginning of each hour, they would get a ticket for free food. We're covering a certain amount of that for the consumers. So it's really just kind of to see if we can drop some attention from the town, but also, we've seen a steady inflow of more traffic coming onto the premises and higher sales amounts as our name's gone out there, and we do think that this would be another way of at least reaching out to the community to get the business name out there and hopefully drive up more sales. It's beneficial for the business and it's also beneficial for the town.
Chief, any concerns? Okay. Any other questions? Board? Mr. Marcy?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request for a one-day outdoor entertainment license located on the grounds of 35 Chase Ave on Friday, June 24th, 2022, and Saturday, June 25th, 2022, from 12 to 8 p.m. for live music and DJ music for the Greatest Hits grand opening.
Just a second for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Michelle wants to clarify something as the
The
licensing.
dates for the events are Saturday, June 25th, 2022, from 12 to 8, and Sunday, June 26th.
Oh.
No, it's Friday and Saturday.
I'm looking at your flyer, or your flyer says.
It's the 25th, it's from 12 to 8, and then it was Friday from 2 to 8. I believe that's what was on the agenda, unless I read that wrong.
Saying 12 to 8 both days.
Yeah, the agenda says 12 to 8 both days.
I'm asking for 12 to 8 for both days, but the food truck's arriving, I believe, at 1 o'clock. And then, like I said, on Friday, everything's internal besides the food truck. And then 12 to 8 o'clock, the music would be outside on Saturday.
Okay, so you can operate within the request on the agenda.
Yes, that's Friday and Saturday, so that's what we're going off of.
So no matter what the flyer says, we're going by the agenda.
Okay.
So,
And but I need the license, those dates.
We can probably fix that tonight and just sign it before you leave. It's not a big deal.
All
As
right.
long as the votes.
Yeah,
goes through.
we'll sign
Can I
it.
give you the wrong dates? That might be my fault, but it definitely is Friday and Saturday. I just checked online to make sure I wasn't wrong.
That's okay, I'll change this.
Mr. Zoll?
So I apologize.
so my second with discussion, Mr. Chair, was only because I just would like to make sure we have at least a meeting with a verbal sign off from the fire concerning if they need any kind of presence there. So I guess we can give them conditional and assuming Assistant Chief Koniski or Kochanowski can handle it, it'll just go through. I don't wanna let that just kinda die, have fire department come forward and say, oh, we need EMS coverage, and we didn't at least put it in the record.
I mean, we'll reach out to them tomorrow,
Yeah,
most
give you
likely.
conditional approval.
Modify the motion,
Yep.
second.
As a, I guess as the word would be something like upon receiving approval from fire and EMS. Is that good, Paul?
That's fine, we can wrap this up tomorrow.
All right. And if there's any kind of big issue, they can
Thank you.
communicate through Jonathan to you.
Okay.
It's good with me.
Good with that? All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ned.
Thank you, Attorney.
All right, board member comments. Let's start with, Mr. Landry.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the first meeting. It's been a very nice and smooth meeting. I look forward to serving everyone and doing my best to keep the board moving forward with a smile on your face. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, welcome, Mr. Landry. A lot of people probably glad he's here. I'm glad he's here. Mark's a lifetime Dudley resident. He's been involved the last few years with FAA and capital improvement, and it's a good addition. Nice to see you back on the board as well. Thank you for accepting chair. Looks like it's gonna be an interesting year. And I just wanna congratulate everybody that put their name out for consideration for town office. We had a couple last-minute step-ups for write-ins for some empty boards, empty positions, which is nice to see people had interest in those positions. Anybody that ran was not fortunate to be elected, I hope they're not discouraged and they become productive, find a seat on a board that may need a volunteer, but just because you got defeated doesn't mean you have to go away. You can always bring something positive to the town. So just, once again, congratulations, and I want to thank the, what was the number, Laurie, 9-point-something% turnout?
I think it was a little lower.
0.9%.
I was joking with the clerk at the election, I said 8%, she said, I hope it's higher. I don't think we made it, so, but
We didn't.
I'd like to thank the minority of voters in town that took the time to participate in the democratic process. A little disheartening, but at least congratulate the ones that showed up.
Mr.
That's all I
Nudge.
got.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Landry.
Sir.
Welcome again, Mr. Johnson. This is the first meeting I can remember without Mr. Paul Joseph being in attendance. Thank you, Paul, for everything you've done for Dudley. Appreciate it. I want to thank the Dudley Boy Scouts for inviting me to one of their meetings to speak about citizenship. It was a nice event. They received well. Next Generation has got a lot of good kids in it. I'll say that. I don't know if we've had a meeting since Candidates Night, but I want to thank everyone that showed up to Candidates Night that was running for an office. It's a lot, if you're not used to public speaking, it's a lot to sit up somewhere with all eyes on you, the lights get really bright. And it takes a lot to do that when, what's the payback? There's really not much except for just serving your community, which actually is a lot. So just thank you to everyone that showed up for Candidates Night, because really, it's kind of like an interview. Would you hire someone for a job that didn't show up to the interview? Of course not. So, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, Chairman.
Mr. Marcy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to say, again, welcome, Mr. Landry. Looking forward to serving with you. And Mr. Johnson, welcome back, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for taking that. Thanks to the town clerk and her staff for running an amazing election. No complaints heard. Everybody was able to find with an additional precinct. And it got done. Turnout wasn't what, as Mr. Sullivan says, what we wanted, but, for those who showed up, that's a common theme. The world is run by those who show up, so thank you for everybody who came out to support the candidates. Thanks for all the candidates who showed up and got elected or even didn't. You were part of the process, and it's really, really hard, as Carrie said, to stand up in front of a jury of your neighbors and friends and peers. And so I salute you, salute everybody who came forward for that. And and Carrie stole my thunder. I said this is the first time in over a decade where I haven't been in a meeting with Paul Joseph. So I just want to make sure that we noted his long service one more time. Thank you.
Thank you all for all those that came to election night, candidates night, town meeting, random meetings throughout the week, because that is the process in which we do the work for the town. So thank you all that participate. Thank you to the board for trusting me, or at least voting for me as chairman. I ask for everyone's patience, but understand constructive criticism is expected, and I plan on receiving it well. Thank you. All right, department communication. So the few times I've had the gavel, I do this a little bit different. I go from the back of the room. Rich.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. It's how to chum the water for positive comments, huh? Thank you. Normally I'm at the end. Have a few items. Back to Dudley Charlton. They had gone through and run some numbers. Everybody realizes that it's a moving target. You're trying to line up 5 or 6 things. What we're looking for is a good placeholder. If they say the average tax bill is going to go up $100, it's a good, like I said, a good placeholder. Is this good? Can I afford $100? Yes. It goes up $600? Maybe not. So use that as sort of the litmus test. Invitation going out to the board. If you want nitty-gritty details on the DE1, the debt service, the best I can offer, please reach out. If you wanted to have some fun, Sean Cronin, Senior Director, Department of Revenue. If you go into the DOR website, there is a dashboard. And if you want to start to get into the very, very fine details, you can go through and find very similar information. And you have the ability to go through and start to compare and put in your own numbers. So in the event you only excluded 50% of it, or it went at 125% of cost, in your mind you had a basis to at least do that. But again, the invitation is out there. If you want some specifics, as best we can do them, absolutely. Right now, the town of Dudley is going to have their OPEB valuation for the next 2 years coming up. Remember, we need to keep track of other post-employment benefits. It's a snapshot. This is our population. These are our rules in expectation. This is what we should be putting away year 1 to be fully funded in 20 years or whatever it is. An important thing to note there is the rate of return. Right now, we have a glacial pace. We're getting fixed income securities. We're doing something about that to sort of move it up. Not aggressive, we're not going to be buying junk bonds, but we're going to be getting that component of equities in the market. The idea that a percentage of, all of a sudden, instead of averaging 1%, we're going to be offsetting that 1% by moving it up to 1.25, 1.5 along the legal list of investments. We have somebody to do that for us. I'm not going to be spinning the wheel or listening to Mad Money. Again, if you need more information, happy to do that. I'd like to thank everybody for open enrollment, 1,000,001 sign-offs and everything like that. Remember, it's never a bad time to go through and review what you have. at least as far as insurances go. Everybody in the Worcester Regional Retirement System at one point has picked a designee in the event you die in service. You also want to go through and get your ducks in a row. If on the horizon there is a retirement, you don't just show up there on Friday and Monday receive a check. They're going to go through and put a few items in there. It gets fed through my office. I know a few people are doing that because it's coming back. Unfortunately, the remittance process is a little simplistic. It's not automated. So when they go through and they start to calculate out a benefit, anything that's an anomaly will be researched manually. And I will pat myself on the back. Right now, my 2 assistants have gone through and done 3 in the last 2 weeks. So they figured out the paper process well enough. They're able to do that. Worcester Regional Retirement, we have our annual assessment. We pay once a year. It's going to be the electronic check for the $1 million or whatever it's going to be. Their rate, we get that rate of 6.75% off of the half year. So it's a discount for us. They figure that into the actuarial valuation. So we've earned some money that way. It's a good thing. And finally, always end on a positive note. Karen Beth Gillen came up here, and I get a chance to fulfill one of my campaign promises. I remember being up here. They had candidates night, and it had been a while since the collector of taxes in the town of Dudley sold strawberry shortcake tickets for the Grange. So we have them. I'll have them until maybe Wednesday afternoon, and then we need to get the remittance up there. They're kind of cash strapped, so to have a few $100s in the collector's office doesn't help them set up for the next day. So I also had an invitation. She was petitioning me to hull some strawberries, but I've got somebody out this week. I'm sorry.
You didn't bring any strawberry tickets with you?
Office is open. I got a fistful.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Richard. FAA?
Thank you.
$7 a piece, Rich, right?
Yeah, how much are they this year, Rich?
Rich,
Maybe 10% off.
$7.
7.5.
Yeah,
7.5, thank you.
Fire? Nothing. Highway?
Just a couple of things. The sidewalk project on Mason Road has begun. They're gonna be doing some of the tree removal tomorrow. They're still waiting on a granite delivery which will be the bulk of the project. But that project will be continuing throughout the summer. I understand school will be closing soon after the 17th. They'll be working in full force out there. The other project, we did get a notice of a grant award, and I know it was a somewhat more limited meeting before the town meeting, and airport road grant that we applied for through the Shared Streets program. We received just under $177,000. Been speaking with the same engineer that's done the work over on the Mason Road project from Tie and Bond, and we're working on a scope, and they're putting together a limited design. We've also been working with Nichols to incorporate some of their wishes with getting sidewalks to the fields over there and the clubhouse at the golf course. So those things are underway, and we'll be continuing to work on. So that's pretty much about it.
All right, thank you. Laura, you have anything? Chief?
I think she did enough yesterday.
Lori just wants to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to the chairmanship. Also, welcome to Mr. Landry for coming back and for running for everything. Congratulations. As you mentioned, Paul Joseph, too. I think this is probably my the 17th year or something that I've been here doing this, that he hasn't been a fixture on there. So thank him very much for his support and everything for over the years. A couple of things I have. I want to just thank again, the voters for supporting our debt exclusion question for police cruisers. This was a program we had a few years ago where we were able to purchase a vehicle a year. And it's extremely important because it takes us time to order these things now, especially with the shortages in the supply chains and things. So for example, we ordered a cruiser back sometime around October, right around the fall town meeting. We're still waiting on delivery for that vehicle. That should hopefully be at us at the end of this month or in July. So we ordered another one in February, which we're hoping to get by the end of the year. So this at least gives us a chance to kind of get ahead of that. We can order them as soon as possible and try to get them on a regular basis. So I thank the voters for all that support. It's greatly appreciated. We submitted today our certifications for our officers to the Post Commission. So we have all officers that have a last name between A and H had to be submitted by June 15th for official certification through the Post Commission. And one of our reserve officers, John Glowacki, completed what they call the bridge program, so he was able to meet the required training standards for the positions. So we're eligible for about $3,000 to come back and grant from that from the states. We're applying for that, putting forward. But he's the one person that was impacted at this point, and he's passed all of his certifications he needed to do. So in addition to that grant from the state, we're looking at putting a grant for an additional officer through the COPS program through the federal government. We submitted our traffic enforcement grant that we usually normally get. And also Lieutenant Kolowitz put in and received a car seat grant. So when we do some car seat programs, we'll have that on hand. So that's a couple of big additions that we've got. And the last thing is, first time in 2 years, Strawberry Festival's back on Thursday. Jeff and I met this week to go over the parking restrictions and everything there. We strongly, even though the board has authorized parking on both sides of Center Road, we strongly encourage everyone to use the parking lots for the college that are down below. Students are all gone, they're all open, so please use those lots off of Healy Road or even down on the campus if you can use those. We're going to restrict parking on Dudley Hill Road, Dudley Southbridge Road, and Dudley Oxford Road, and also Tanyard Road. So we will have traffic detoured coming up Center Road, will be detoured down Tanyard, and we're going to limit parking on all those streets. Because the biggest problem is that people just kind of come in and jam in and park there and leave their cars, and it's a nightmare trying to get in and out of there. If we ever have to get any emergency vehicles through, it'd be crazy. So we just ask for everybody's cooperation to kind of pay attention to the signs on there, park in the lots off there, and enjoy yourself for the first time in 2 years up there. So,
Chief, great job by Dean and the Board of Health on the bike rodeo on Saturday.
that's it. Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a great program to get that back going. And I'm sure you have good connections with the Board of Health, so I know they worked hard on that. And it's nice to get that back up and running, because when we ran that a few years ago, it was very popular. So I'm glad that the Board of Health and everybody else got involved with that stuff too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Landry, you want to take us out with a motion?
Town administrator report?
Oh,
Administrator
It's not
asked
on
to
it.
waive his report for this week.
Okay.
it's not on the agenda.
No,
I would usually, no offense, I usually look forward to it.
me too.
Double next week, next time?
I'll double it up next time.
Quadruple, it's not until July. Need some coffee to
Mr.
get.
Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, everybody, thank you.